of procrastination. All right, everybody, gather around. I've got something to say that's going to blow your mind. We've all been told that procrastination is the enemy. It's the thing that keeps us from achieving our goals, the habit that makes us miss deadlines, and the reason we're still scrolling on our phones instead of doing what we're supposed to be doing. But what if I told you that procrastination isn't always the bad guy? What if I told you that sometimes delaying can actually lead to greatness? Now, before you start throwing tomatoes at me, hear me out. I'm not saying you should quit your job, ignore your responsibilities, and spend the rest of your life binge watching TV shows. No. What I'm saying is that there's a hidden wisdom in procrastination, a lesson, a strategy, a secret sauce that when used correctly can actually work in your favor. Think about it. Some of the greatest minds in history were known procrastinators. Leonardo da Vinci took 16 years to finish the Mona Lisa. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech the night before he delivered it. And let's not even talk about how long it takes some of us to finally clean out the garage. But here's the thing. Sometimes the delay isn't about laziness. It's about preparation. It's about giving yourself the time to think, to dream, to plan, and to get it right. Procrastination is like a pause button on life. It gives you a moment to catch your breath, to reflect, and to ask yourself the hard questions. Is this really what I want to be doing? Is this the best way to do it? Am I even on the right path? And sometimes that pause can save you from making a huge mistake. It can give you the clarity you need to move forward with purpose and intention. But here's the kicker. Procrastination isn't just about delaying action. It's about creating space for inspiration. Some of the best ideas come when you're not actively trying to force them. When you're procrastinating, your mind is free to wonder, to explore, to imagine. That's when the magic happens. That's when you come up with the idea that changes everything. Now, I know what you're thinking, but what about deadlines? What about all the stuff I need to get done? Listen, deadlines are important. They keep us accountable, they keep us focused, and they keep us from spending our entire lives in the planning phase. But here's the thing, procrastination teaches you how to work under pressure. It shows you what you're capable of when the clock is ticking. And sometimes that pressure is exactly what you need to bring out your best work. So the next time you catch yourself procrastinating, don't beat yourself up. Instead, ask yourself, what's the wisdom here? What's the lesson? What's the opportunity? Maybe you're giving yourself time to think. Maybe you're prioritizing what really matters. Or maybe you're just trusting the timing of your life. Whatever it is, embrace it, use it, and when it's time to act, act with everything you've got. Because here's the truth, procrastination isn't the enemy, it's a teacher. And if you're willing to learn, it just might lead you to greatness. Now let's dive into the 10 key lessons that will change the way you think about procrastination forever. Let's go. 1, procrastination gives you time to think. All right, let's get into it. The first lesson in the wisdom of procrastination is this. It gives you time to think. Now, I know what you're thinking. Time to think. Isn't that just an excuse to avoid doing the work? Hold on. Let me break it down for you. Think about this. When you rush into something, what happens? You make mistakes. You overlook details. You end up with a half-baked idea that doesn't really solve the problem. But when you take your time, when you delay just a little, you give yourself the space to think deeply, to consider all the angles, and to come up with a solution that's not just good, but great. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're working on a big project at work. Your boss gives you a deadline, and your first instinct is to dive right in. You start brainstorming, you start planning, you start executing. But halfway through, you realize you missed something crucial. Maybe you didn't fully understand the problem, or maybe you didn't consider all the possible solutions. Now you're stuck, and you have to go back to the drawing board. But what if, instead of rushing in, you took a step back? What if you gave yourself permission to procrastinate just a little so you could really think about the problem? you might realize that there's a better way to approach it. You might come up with an idea that's more innovative, more effective, and more impactful. And when you finally do start working, you'll be working smarter. Here's the thing. Great ideas need time to marinate. They need time to simmer in the back of your mind, to grow and evolve until they're ready to be brought to life. And sometimes the best way to give them that time is to procrastinate. Now, I'm not saying you should spend weeks or months avoiding the work. No. What I'm saying is that a little delay can be a good thing. It can give you the clarity you need to see the bigger picture, to understand the problem on a deeper level, and to come up with a solution that's truly brilliant. And let's be real. We live in a world that's constantly pushing us to go faster, to do more, to be more productive. But sometimes the best thing you can do is slow down. Take a breath. Give yourself the time to think, because when you do, you'll find that the answers come more easily, the ideas flow more freely, and the work you produce is of a higher quality. So the next time you catch yourself procrastinating, don't beat yourself up. Instead, ask yourself, what am I gaining from this delay? What am I learning? What am I discovering? Maybe you're giving yourself the time to think deeply about the problem. Maybe you're allowing your subconscious mind to work on the solution. Or maybe you're just giving yourself the space to breathe and recharge. Whatever it is, embrace it, use it. And when it's time to act with confidence, knowing that you've taken the time to think things through. Because here's the truth. Procrastination isn't just about delaying action. It's about creating the space for greatness to emerge. And when you give yourself that space, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. So let's stop treating procrastination like the enemy and start seeing it for what it really is. A tool for thinking, a strategy for success, and a pathway to greatness. Now let's move on to the next lesson and keep unlocking the wisdom of procrastination. Let's go. 2, procrastination helps you prioritize. Now, I know what you're thinking. Prioritize. Isn't procrastination just about avoiding the things I don't want to do? Well, yes and no. Let me explain. When you procrastinate, you're essentially saying, I'm not going to do this right now. And sometimes that's exactly what you need to do, because not everything on your to-do list is urgent. Not everything deserves your immediate attention. And not everything is worth your time and energy. Let me break it down for you. Imagine your to-do list is a buffet. There's a little bit of everything on there. Some tasks are like the main course, some are like side dishes, and some are like that weird Jell-O salad that nobody really wants but somebody always brings. Now, if you try to eat everything on that buffet at once, what's going to happen? You're going to end up with a stomach ache. But when you procrastinate, you're forced to ask yourself, what do I really need to eat right now? What's going to give me the most energy? What's going to keep me going? And that's when you start to prioritize. You start to focus on the things that really matter. And you let the rest wait. Here's the thing. We live in a world that's constantly demanding our attention. Emails, texts, social media, meetings. It's like a never-ending stream of distraction. And if you try to do everything at once, you're going to burn out. But when you procrastinate, you're giving yourself permission to say, not right now. You're giving yourself the space to focus on what's truly important. Now, I'm not saying you should ignore your responsibilities or blow off deadlines. No. What I'm saying is that procrastination can be a tool for helping you figure out what really matters. It can help you separate the gotta do from the can wait, the urgent from the important, and the essential from the optional. And here's the kicker. When you prioritize, you're not just being more productive, you're being more effective. You're focusing your time and energy on the things that will have the biggest impact. And you're letting go of the things that don't really matter. That's called working smarter, not harder. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're working on a big project and you've got a million things to do. You could try to do everything at once, but you'd probably end up feeling overwhelmed and stressed out. Or you could procrastinate just a little and use that time to figure out what's really important. Maybe you realize that one task is more critical than the others, or maybe you discover that one task can wait until later. Either way, you're making a conscious decision about how to spend your time and energy. And here's the best part. When you prioritize, you're not just getting more done, you're getting the right things done. You're focusing on the tasks that will move the needle, that will make a difference, and that will help you achieve your goals. And that's what really matters. So the next time you catch yourself procrastinating, don't beat yourself up. Instead, ask yourself, what am I prioritizing right now? What's really important? What's going to have the biggest impact? Maybe you're giving yourself the space to focus on what really matters. Maybe you're letting go of the things that don't. Or maybe you're just giving yourself permission to take a breath and recharge. Whatever it is, embrace it, use it, and when it's time to act, act with purpose, knowing that you've prioritized what really matters. Because here's the truth, procrastination isn't just about delaying action, it's about creating the space for greatness to emerge. And when you give yourself that space, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. So let's stop treating procrastination like the enemy and start seeing it for what it really is. A tool for prioritizing, a strategy for success, and a pathway to greatness. Now, let's move on to the next lesson and keep unlocking the wisdom of procrastination. Let's go. 3, procrastination sparks creativity. All right, let's keep this energy going. The third lesson in the wisdom of procrastination is this: it sparks creativity. Now, I know what you're thinking. Creativity, isn't procrastination just about avoiding work? Well, yes and no. Let me break it down for you. When you procrastinate, you're not just sitting around doing nothing. Well, sometimes you are, but stick with me. What you're really doing is giving your brain a break. You're stepping away from the task at hand and letting your mind wander. And guess what? That's when the magic happens. That's when the creative juices start flowing. Think about it. Some of the best ideas come when you're not actively trying to force them. When you're in the shower, when you're driving, when you're daydreaming. Those are the moments when your brain is free to explore, to imagine, to create. And sometimes procrastination is the gateway to those moments. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're working on a project and you're stuck. You've been staring at the same problem for hours and you just can't figure it out. So what do? You procrastinate. You take a walk, you scroll through your phone, you do something, anything to take your mind off the problem. And then out of nowhere, it hits you. The solution, the idea, the breakthrough. That's the power of procrastination. It gives your brain the space it needs to think outside the box, to connect the dots and to come up with something truly innovative. And here's the thing, you can't force creativity. You can't sit down and say, okay, brain, come up with a brilliant idea right now. It doesn't work like that. Creativity needs room to breathe, and procrastination gives it that room. Now, I'm not saying you should spend all day avoiding your work. No, no, no. What I'm saying is that a little procrastination can be a good thing. It can be the spark that ignites your creativity and leads to something amazing. And let's be real. We live in a world that's constantly pushing us to be productive, to be efficient, to be on top of everything. But sometimes the best thing you can do is step back, take a break, let your mind wander. Because when you do, you'll find that the ideas come more easily, the solutions come more quickly, and the work you produce is of a higher quality. Here's another example. Think about some of the greatest creators in history, artists, writers, inventors. Many of them were known procrastinators. They didn't just sit down and crank out masterpieces. They took their time. They let their ideas simmer, they procrastinated, and when the time was right, they created something extraordinary. So the next time you catch yourself procrastinating, don't beat yourself up. Instead, ask yourself, what am I creating right now? What am I discovering? What am I imagining? Maybe you're giving your brain the space it needs to come up with a brilliant idea. Maybe you're letting your subconscious mind work on the problem. Or maybe you're just giving yourself permission to dream. Whatever it is, embrace it, use it. And when it's time to act, act with confidence. knowing that you've given your creativity the space it needs to thrive. Because here's the truth. Procrastination isn't just about delaying action. It's about creating the space for greatness to emerge. And when you give yourself that space, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. So let's stop treating procrastination like the enemy and start seeing it for what it really is. A tool for creativity, a strategy for success, and a pathway to greatness. Now, let's move on to the next lesson and keep unlocking the wisdom of procrastination. Let's go. 4, procrastination teaches you deadlines are your friend. All right, let's keep this momentum going. The 4th lesson in the wisdom of procrastination is this. It teaches you that deadlines are your friend. Now, I know what you're thinking. Deadlines, my friend? Are you kidding me? But hear me out. Deadlines get a bad rap. But when you procrastinate, you learn just how powerful they can be. Let me break it down for you. When you procrastinate, you're essentially delaying action until the last possible moment. And what happens when you're down to the wire? You focus, you hustle, you get it done. That pressure is not your enemy, it's your fuel. It's the thing that pushes you to perform at your best, to dig deep, and to deliver when it counts. Think about it. How many times have you put something off until the last minute, only to find that you work faster, smarter, and more efficiently when the deadline is looming? That's not a coincidence. That's the power of a deadline. It forces you to prioritize, to eliminate distractions, and to focus on what really matters. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've got a big presentation coming up. You've known about it for weeks, but you've been putting it off. Now, it's the night before, and you're scrambling to get it done. But here's the thing. You're not just scrambling, you're focused, you're determined, you're pulling out all the stops to make sure it's the best presentation you've ever given. And when you're done, you realize that you've just done some of your best work under pressure. That's the magic of a deadline. It pushes you to rise to the occasion, to tap into your potential, and to deliver something great. And when you procrastinate, you're essentially training yourself to perform under pressure. You're learning how to work efficiently, how to stay focused, and how to get things done, even when the clock is ticking. Now, I'm not saying you should wait until the last minute for everything. No. What I'm saying is that deadlines can be a powerful tool for productivity. They can help you stay on track, keep you accountable, and push you to do your best work. And when you procrastinate, you're learning how to use that tool to your advantage. And let's be real, we live in a world that's full of distractions, emails, texts, social media, meetings. It's like a never-ending stream of things pulling you in a million different directions. But when you've got a deadline, you've got a reason to say no to those distractions. You've got a reason to focus, to prioritize, and to get things done. Here's another example. Think about some of the greatest achievements in history. Scientific breakthroughs, artistic masterpieces, world-changing inventions. Many of them were accomplished under tight deadlines. The pressure of a deadline can be the thing that pushes you to think outside the box, to take risks, and to achieve something extraordinary. So the next time you catch yourself procrastinating, don't beat yourself up. Instead, ask yourself, what am I learning from this deadline? How is it pushing me to be better? How is it helping me focus? Maybe you're learning how to work efficiently under pressure. Maybe you're discovering just how much you're capable of when the clock is ticking. Or maybe you're just giving yourself the push you need to get things done. Whatever it is, embrace it, use it. And when it's time to act, act with confidence, knowing that the deadline is your friend. Because here's the truth. Procrastination isn't just about delaying action. It's about learning how to perform under pressure. And when you master that skill, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. So let's stop treating procrastination like the enemy and start seeing it for what it really is. A tool for learning, a strategy for success, and a pathway to greatness. Now, let's move on to the next lesson and keep unlocking the wisdom of procrastination. Let's go to 2.5. Procrastination reveals what you truly care about. All right, let's switch it up a bit. The fifth lesson in the wisdom of procrastination is this. It reveals what you truly care about. Now, I know what you're thinking. How does avoiding stuff show me what I care about? Well, let's dive into this one with a fresh perspective. Here's the deal. Procrastination isn't just about laziness or poor time management. It's also a mirror. It reflects your priorities, your passions, and your values. When you procrastinate, you're making a subconscious choice about what deserves your energy and what doesn't. And sometimes that choice tells you more about yourself than you realize. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how you never procrastinate on the things you're genuinely excited about? If you love what you're doing, you dive right in. You lose track of time. You're in the zone. But when you're dragging your feet, when you're finding every excuse in the book to avoid something, that's a sign. That's your inner self saying, hey, this isn't lighting me up. This isn't what I'm passionate about. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've got two tasks on your to-do list. One is a creative project you're excited about. Maybe it's writing, painting, or designing something. The other is a mundane administrative task that feels like pulling teeth. Which one do you tackle first? Which one do you keep putting off? Exactly. Your procrastination is showing you where your heart lies. Now, here's the kicker. Sometimes procrastination reveals that you're spending time on things that don't align with your goals or values. Maybe you're stuck in a job that doesn't inspire you. Maybe you're working on a project that doesn't excite you. Maybe you're saying yes to things out of obligation rather than passion. And your procrastination is your mind's way of saying, hey, we need to have a conversation about this. But here's the good news. Once you recognize what your procrastination is telling you, you can make changes. You can start saying no to the things that drain you and yes to the things that light you up. You can start aligning your actions with your passions and your purpose. And when you do that, you'll find that procrastination starts to disappear because you're doing the things you truly care about. Let's take it a step further. Procrastination can also reveal hidden fears or insecurities. Sometimes we put things off because we're afraid of failure, rejection, or even success. We're scared to put ourselves out there, to take risks, to step into our greatness. And procrastination becomes a safety net, a way to avoid facing those fears. But here's the thing. Once you recognize that fear, you can confront it. You can ask yourself, what's really holding me back? What am I afraid of? And what would happen if I just went for it? When you face those fears head on, you'll find that procrastination loses its grip on you. So the next time you catch yourself procrastinating, don't just brush it off as laziness. Instead, ask yourself, what is this revealing about me? What do I truly care about? What am I avoiding and why? Maybe you're being shown that you're spending time on the wrong things. Maybe you're being pushed to confront a fear. Or maybe you're being reminded of what truly lights you up. Whatever it is, embrace it. Use it as an opportunity to reflect, to realign, and to reconnect with your passions and purpose. Because here's the truth. Procrastination isn't just about delaying action. It's about revealing your truth. And when you listen to that truth, you'll find yourself on a path to greater fulfillment and success. So let's stop treating procrastination like the enemy and start seeing it for what it really is, a mirror, a teacher, and a guide. Now, let's move on to the next lesson and keep unlocking the wisdom of procrastination. Let's go. Procrastination builds resilience. All right, let's keep this energy alive. The sixth lesson in the wisdom of procrastination is this. It builds resilience. Now, I know what you're thinking. Resilience, how does putting things off make me stronger? Stick with me because this one's going to flip the script on how you see procrastination. Here's the truth. Life is messy. It doesn't always go according to plan. Deadlines sneak up on you. Unexpected challenges arise, and sometimes you're left scrambling to get things done. But guess what? That's where resilience comes in. And procrastination, it's like a crash course in building that resilience muscle. Think about it. When you procrastinate, You're often left with less time to complete a task. And what happens when the clock is ticking? You adapt, you hustle, you figure it out. You might not have all the resources you need or all the time you'd like, but you make it work. That's resilience. It's the ability to roll with the punches, to think on your feet, and to keep going even when the odds are stacked against you. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've got a big project due tomorrow, and you've been putting it off for weeks. Now you're down to the wire, and you've got no choice but to get it done. So what do? You buckle down, you focus, you prioritize, and somehow, against all odds, you pull it off. That feeling of accomplishment, that's resilience in action. Now, here's the kicker. The more you practice this, the more you find yourself in these high-pressure situations, the better you get at handling them. You learn how to stay calm under pressure. You learn how to think creatively and solve problems quickly. You learn how to trust yourself and your abilities. And that's a skill that will serve you well in every area of your life. But let's take it a step further. Procrastination doesn't just teach you how to handle pressure. It also teaches you how to bounce back from setbacks. Because let's be real, when you procrastinate, things don't always go perfectly. Maybe you miss a deadline. Maybe you turn in work that's not your best. Maybe you face consequences for your delay. But here's the thing, you survive, you learn from it, and you come back stronger. That's the beauty of resilience. It's not about never falling. It's about getting back up every time you do. And procrastination gives you plenty of opportunities to practice that. It's like life's way of saying, hey, I'm going to throw some challenges your way, and you're going to figure out how to handle them. And here's the best part. When you build resilience through procrastination, you're not just preparing yourself for work deadlines or school projects. You're preparing yourself for life, because life is full of unexpected twists and turns. It's full of challenges and obstacles. And the more resilient you are, the better equipped you'll be to handle whatever comes your way. So the next time you catch yourself procrastinating, don't just see it as a failure. Instead, ask yourself, what am I learning from this? How is this making me stronger? How is this preparing me for the next challenge? Maybe you're learning how to stay calm under pressure. Maybe you're discovering just how resourceful you can be. Or maybe you're building the resilience you'll need to tackle even bigger challenges in the future. Whatever it is, embrace it. Use it as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to become more resilient. Because here's the truth. Procrastination isn't just about delaying action. It's about building the strength and resilience you need to thrive in an unpredictable world. So let's stop treating procrastination like the enemy and start seeing it for what it really is: a teacher, a trainer, and a builder of resilience. Now let's move on to the next lesson and keep unlocking the wisdom of procrastination. 7, procrastination helps you avoid burnout. Let's keep it short and powerful. The 7th lesson in the wisdom of procrastination is this: it helps you avoid burnout. Now, I know what you're thinking. Avoid burnout by doing nothing? But here's the thing. Procrastination isn't about doing nothing. It's about giving yourself a break. When you procrastinate, you're hitting the pause button. You're stepping away from the grind, even if just for a moment. And that pause is crucial. It gives your mind and body a chance to recharge. Think of it like a phone battery. You can't keep running on 1%. You need to plug in, take a breath, and come back stronger. Burnout happens when you push too hard for too long. But procrastination forces you to slow down, to rest, to reset. It's not laziness, it's self-preservation. So the next time you procrastinate, don't stress. You're not avoiding work, you're protecting your energy. And when you return to the task, you'll be sharper, fresher, and ready to crush it. Procrastination isn't the enemy, it's your shield against burnout. Use it wisely. Procrastination teaches you to trust your timing. Let's keep this momentum going. The 8th lesson in the wisdom of procrastination is this: it teaches you to trust your timing. Now, I know what you're thinking. Trust my timing? but I'm always running late. But here's the thing, procrastination isn't just about being late. It's about learning to trust the natural rhythm of your life. When you procrastinate, you're often waiting for the right moment to act. And sometimes that moment isn't when everyone else thinks it should be, it's when you're ready. It's when the idea has fully formed, when the plan has come together, or when the inspiration finally strikes. Procrastination forces you to slow down and listen to your inner clock, not just the one on the wall. Think about it. Some of the best things in life can't be rushed. A masterpiece isn't painted in a day. A great idea isn't born in an instant. Even nature takes its time. Flowers don't bloom before they're ready. Procrastination reminds you that timing is everything. It's not about being first, it's about being right. And here's the kicker. When you trust your timing, you stop comparing yourself to others. You stop stressing about where you should be and start focusing on where you are. You realize that your journey is unique and your pace is perfect for you. So the next time you're procrastinating, don't panic. Ask yourself, am I waiting for the right moment? Am I trusting my timing? Maybe you're giving yourself the space to prepare. Maybe you're waiting for the pieces to fall into place, or maybe you're just learning to trust yourself. Procrastination isn't the enemy. It's a reminder that great things take time. Trust your timing and greatness will follow. Now let's move on to the next lesson, 9. Procrastination shows you the power of a fresh start. All right, let's keep this energy alive. The 9th lesson in the wisdom of procrastination is this. It shows you the power of a fresh start. Now, I know what you're thinking. A fresh start? How does delaying something help me start over? But here's the thing. Procrastination isn't just about avoiding action. It's about giving yourself the chance to reset, refocus, and come back stronger. Think about it. When you procrastinate, you're often stepping away from a task, even if just for a little while. And when you return to it, you're not the same person you were when you left. You've had time to think, to reflect, and to gain a new perspective. That task that seemed overwhelming before, now it feels manageable. That problem that seemed unsolvable, now you've got a fresh approach. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're working on a project and you're stuck. You've been staring at the same problem for hours and you're getting nowhere. So you procrastinate, you take a break, you do something else, and you come back to it later. And when you do, you realize that the solution was right in front of you the whole time. You just needed a fresh start to see it. That's the power of procrastination. It gives you the space to reset, to recharge, and to come back with a clear mind and a fresh perspective. And when you do, you'll find that the work is easier, the ideas flow more freely, and the solutions come more quickly. Now, here's the kicker. Procrastination doesn't just give you a fresh start. It also teaches you the value of starting over. Because let's be real, sometimes the first draft isn't the best draft. Sometimes the first attempt isn't the one that succeeds. And that's okay. Procrastination reminds you that it's not about getting it right the first time. It's about being willing to try again. And here's the best part. When you embrace the power of a fresh start, you stop being afraid of failure. You realize that every setback is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to improve. You realize that every fresh start is a chance to do better, to be better, and to achieve something great. So the next time you catch yourself procrastinating, don't beat yourself up. Instead, ask yourself, what am I gaining from this fresh start? What am I learning? What am I discovering? Maybe you're giving yourself the space to reset. Maybe you're coming back with a new perspective. Or maybe you're just reminding yourself that it's okay to start over. Whatever it is, embrace it. Use it as an opportunity to grow, to learn, and to achieve something great. Because here's the truth. Procrastination isn't just about delaying action. It's about showing you the power of a fresh start. And when you embrace that power, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. So let's stop treating procrastination like the enemy and start seeing it for what it really is, a tool for growth, a strategy for success, and a pathway to greatness. Now let's move on to the final lesson and keep unlocking the wisdom of procrastination. Let's go. 10, procrastination prepares you for the big moments. Let's finish strong. The 10th lesson in the wisdom of procrastination is this. It prepares you for the big moments. Now, I know what you're thinking. How does putting things off get me ready for anything? But here's the thing. Procrastination is like a dress rehearsal for life. It teaches you how to perform under pressure, how to adapt, and how to deliver when it counts. Think about it. When you procrastinate, you're often left with less time to complete a task. And what happens when the clock is ticking? You rise to the occasion. You focus, you hustle, you get it done. That pressure is not your enemy. It's your training ground. It's preparing you for the moments when everything is on the line, when you need to dig deep and deliver your best. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've got a big presentation, a major deadline, or a high-stakes project. You've been putting it off, and now it's crunch time. But instead of crumbling under the pressure, you thrive. You pull together your best work, you think on your feet, and you nail it. That's the power of procrastination. It's teaching you how to handle the big moments with confidence and grace. And here's the kicker. Life is full of big moments. Whether it's a job interview, a tough conversation, or a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, you're going to face situations where the pressure is on. And when you do, you'll be ready. Because procrastination has already taught you how to perform under pressure. So the next time you're procrastinating, don't stress. Instead, ask yourself, what am I learning from this? How is this preparing me for the big moments? Maybe you're building resilience. Maybe you're learning how to focus under pressure. Or maybe you're just reminding yourself that you've got what it takes to rise to the occasion. Procrastination isn't the enemy. It's your coach, your trainer, and your preparation for greatness. Now, let's wrap this up and take these lessons into the world, all right? Let's bring it home. We've taken a deep dive into the wisdom of procrastination, and here's what we've learned. Procrastination gives you time to think. It allows your ideas to marinate and your plans to solidify. It helps you prioritize. It forces you to focus on what truly matters and let go of what doesn't. It sparks creativity. It gives your mind the freedom to wander and dream up something extraordinary. It teaches you deadlines are your friend. It shows you how to perform under pressure and deliver when it counts. It reveals what you truly care about. It acts as a mirror reflecting your passions and values. It builds resilience. It prepares you to handle life's challenges with grit and determination. It helps you avoid burnout. It reminds you to pause, recharge, and protect your energy. It teaches you to trust your timing. It shows you that greatness can't be rushed. It happens when the time is right. It shows you the power of a fresh start. It gives you the chance to reset, refocus, and come back stronger. It prepares you for the big moments. It trains you to rise to the occasion and deliver your best when it matters most. Now, let's be clear. Procrastination isn't a free pass to avoid responsibility. It's not an excuse to sit back and do nothing. But when used wisely, it can be a powerful tool for growth, creativity, and success. So here's your call to action. The next time you catch yourself procrastinating, don't beat yourself up. Instead, ask yourself, what's the wisdom here? How can I use this delay to my advantage? Maybe you're giving yourself time to think. Maybe you're prioritizing what truly matters. Or maybe you're preparing yourself for the big moments ahead. Use procrastination as a tool, not a crutch. Embrace its lessons, harness its power, and channel it into something great. Because here's the truth. Procrastination isn't the enemy. It's a teacher. And when you learn from it, you'll find yourself on a path to greatness. Now, go out there and make it happen on your own time, in your own way, and with the wisdom of procrastination by your side.